Today I just want to talk about the Bourrasque Challenge. This is the latest marathon style event that Wargaming is releasing into the game. Now, I don't know if it's just me or not, but I feel like these missions for mastery are a lot more reasonable than the normal ones. Because the total XP required to unlock this vehicle purely for, well, missions for commitment is 245,000 XP, which I think is actually around about the middle in terms of XP required. Because I think the highest amount ever was about 300, was just under 300,000. I think it was like 288k. So it seems like roughly around about the middle ground to unlock that. Now it will be a wee bit more than that overall to unlock the vehicle, because there are going to be occasions where you're going to have, say, like on like mission 4, you get like 16,500 XP, and then you have like 1,000 XP game, which will mean 500 XP was wasted on a mission which was on the verge of being completed anyway. So things like that are going to happen. So it's probably going to be roughly around about 250, maybe even if you're unlucky, about 255,000 XP to unlock this vehicle. But looking at the missions for mastery, now these are usually the missions I ignore because I don't like playing tier 10, but genuinely these missions seem far more doable than the typical missions that they release. I mean, first mission, 2800 damage, be among top 3 players on your team by damage caused. That is not difficult. Number 2, 800 base XP twice. Not difficult. And when you compare it to the missions on the left hand side, they're going to be substantially quicker than those missions. Now, especially clear here with number 3. If you have a Death Star, this is like, what, like maybe a game or two in order to get this done. Like 4,300 damage in one game for a tier 10, easily done. Like, I mean, all you need is a decent map for a Death Star, or a decent map for any sort of medium or heavy tank that you want to play. That is not a hard mission to complete. 4,300 damage in any tier 10, that's pretty much like around about the average for a good game for tier 10. Now, next one here, this is probably one of the trickier ones, but the actual number of completions required is so much lower than I expected it to be. I expected this to be 10 or 12, but it's only 5 for being top player on your team, like 5 times with base XP. So I really think like that mission is going to be worth actually going for, because just doing that 5 times seems entirely reasonable, especially in comparison to doing 17,000 XP in grind. And then number 5, 4,300 damage 7 times. I'll be honest, that seems genuinely easy. 4,300 damage 7 times? Like, you have a tier 10 tank destroyer, you're probably going to do that like once every 2, maybe even 3 games, like if you're unlucky. And that's still going to be far faster, even if it takes you 1 every 3 games to do that, than grinding 28,000 base XP. Because if you're averaging, say, 750 base XP a game, this is not going to take you 28 games. This is going to take you probably like closer to the region of like 50, maybe even 60. So this seems entirely reasonable to go for, especially considering the damage. Like, damage in comparison to XP is so much easier to farm, because, well, with this here you can rely on other people spotting for you, and you can kind of sit in the background for a while and not take damage, which will allow you to take risks later on in the game, rather than having to be at the very, very front, like what you have to do for XP. Number 6, 850 XP 15 times. Yet again, that seems not too bad. Like, the only problem with those missions is you probably have to be on the winning team in order to really get that consistently. But usually if you're on the winning team, you'll probably wind up beating that. Next one here, number 7. This is the only one that requires you to be the top in regards to both teams. So basically the best player in the match when it comes to damage. But even that, not too unreasonable. Like, if it was XP, that would mean you would have to be on the winning team. That's basically just a way of saying, unless you had an amazing game as the losing side, you would need to be on the winning team in order to beat that there if it was for XP. Because I believe it's a 50% modifier if you win a game versus if you lose a game. So if you win a game, you get 50% more XP than if you lose a game. It's either 50% or 25%, but either way, it's a substantial amount. So it makes a big difference to how much XP you get at the end of the battle. Now, this one here, if it's damage does not care if you win or lose. Like, it's as simple as that. If you have a medium tank or tank destroyer or something you can stay alive for a long time in, that mission should be fairly easily doable. Like, that mission does not seem that hard, really. And then number 8, honestly, like, it's pretty much just a repeat of I think it was number 3. Yeah, a repeat of number 3, but you just need to do it 10 times, and with 200 more damage. It really doesn't seem that extreme to do that. I mean, doing this 10 times versus doing 35,000 base XP, it'll be far faster going for this. Like, it could just be me looking at this here and being too positive about it, but I genuinely feel like these missions and the requirements, the number of times you need to complete them especially, seems a lot more reasonable than they usually are. Because, just as an example, for this one here, I expected that to be 12 requirements or something like that, just because usually they have far more required than normal. Usually would require far more completions of a mission. Like, the requirement wouldn't be that difficult, but the number of completions would be the pain in the ass part. But this one here, it seems like they've gotten the balance a bit better, because usually they ask you to complete way too many times, and that's just what makes it a pain in the ass. But overall, like, the missions don't seem that bad for this, but that makes me curious, like, was the Renegade mission marathon, like, as sort of doable as this, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. Because I genuinely think, instead of the first day, if you have 3 or 4 hours, you could probably complete the first 5 missions in a row without too much of a worry. Like, if you have 3 or 4 hours, I think you could honestly, if you're playing well, you could probably do that inside of 3 or 4 hours. I think that's entirely reasonable. Now it's time to talk about the actual tank itself, the Bourrasque. Now, this tank gets its name from its skin. This sort of white skin with the license plate on it. And, well, it's a French vehicle. To me, I might be reading too much into this, but considering the way this is set up, I feel like this is a reference somehow to the movie Taxi, the 1998 like French movie. Only reason I know that of that movie's existence is purely because of a clip someone showed me whenever I was younger, and I was just like, that seems like a really like cool movie. It's a shame it was never like dubbed or something like that there for me to watch, because at that point in time I couldn't read subtitles for crap. So pretty much, like, it seems to me like it has to be a reference for that. I mean, why else would it have a number plate that says 1998 as well as being a white vehicle that's French? Something else about this machine I just want to quickly point out is, well, the Bourrasque might seem like an interesting, like, unique vehicle, but, well, whenever you look at the Batchat 12T and EBR 105, particular parts of those vehicles seem to be very similar with certain parts of the Bourrasque. I'm not saying they just copied and pasted 2 parts together, it just kind of looks like they just copied and pasted 2 parts together. I mean, it looks like the EBR 105's turret pretty much identically, and the Batchat 12T's hull pretty much identically were just matched together to make a new vehicle that's a medium for some reason. My overall opinion on this tank is that it'll be very good as far as mediums go. Like, I think this tank had the potential to be blatantly overpowered, but thankfully Wargaming held back a little bit when it came to some aspects of it. Like, it has pretty good view range, 390, concealment doesn't seem too bad, the actual mobility of the machine seems very good, 25.5 horsepower per ton ratio, 62 km/h top speed, 23 reverse speed, those all seem very nice. 1250 health is on the low side, and the armor is useless, but that's kind of as you'd expect considering the way the vehicle's set up. And then we get to the interesting aspects, the gun. So, the gun has 360 alpha damage, 190 penetration. 360 alpha seems very good, 190 penetration, not the greatest, but it does fire APCR standard rounds, so it seems like it'll be pretty workable. 21.5 second overall clip reload, because it has a 2-shot clip with a 2-second intra-clip reload. This thing can do 720 damage instead of 2 seconds. That's brutal for any vehicle that you come across. But now we get on to the problems with this vehicle. Now, there are 2 main weaknesses, the accuracy and the aiming time. The accuracy on this thing is 0.42 and the aiming time is 3.5 seconds. Those 2 aspects on their own basically balance out the rest of this tank being pretty goddamn good. Because a 3.5 second aiming time is brutally bad, and 0.42 accuracy is also brutally bad as well. Now, the reason they did that is because, can you imagine how much of a plague on the game this thing would have been if it was able to snipe at long range with a 720 alpha damage, 2-second intra-clip reload, 105mm gun? Can you imagine how much of a plague this thing would have been? This thing would have been probably one of the worst tanks to fight against in the game if it was set up to be able to snipe at long range. So thankfully Wargaming stopped it from being able to do that, but I'm not sure if they were too extreme with it. I'm going to be curious to see I'm definitely going to unlock this vehicle because I really want to play it and just see how exactly it feels to play. Because to me, looking at that extra name time, it looks absolutely devastatingly bad, like potentially tank ruiningly bad. And I can see how it would put some people off going for it, but I'm just curious enough to like play this machine because of how bizarre and unique it is. That I know unique is also kind of bizarre to say about this machine, considering it's made up of two different vehicles, but considering how unique its gameplay seems to be, I just want it just for that aspect alone. So I can see why the accuracy name time would put some people off, but I personally I'm just still intrigued to get one of these things and see what it's like.